Tech billionaire Elon Musk has just weighed in on the government's proposed teen social media ban, calling it a backdoor way to control internet access for all Australians.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And the government's ban on social media for teenagers, which looks set to become law this week, is something no one in the world has ever achieved, with experts saying it just won't work. So why has there been so little pushback from the media? And what exactly will it do?
Social media lockout.
Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram and X will all be forced to prevent users under 16 from accessing their platforms under tough new social media laws.
You can add Reddit to that list, but not YouTube, WhatsApp or Google Classroom, which will be exempt. And the ban would be backed by heavy penalties.
Under the proposed laws, tech companies will face fines of up to $50 million if they fail to comply.
And the obvious question that some are asking:
is it going to work?
Well, I hope they've got a panel full of 12-year-olds advising them, because the kids will find a way around it. And as yet, we have got they're looking at how they can actually enforce this, and I'm not sure they can.
Nor is teen journalist Leo Puglisi, who is telling Tens the Project:
I am absolutely against it. It's just not a viable proposal. I can't see how it'll be actually implemented. And fundamentally, I just think it's a bad idea.
But tell that to the government and the coalition, who are set to rush the laws through in this final week of Parliament, after the public was given just 24 hours last Thursday to make submissions to a Senate committee, with Communications Minister Michelle Rowland selling the proposed new law by saying,
"This is about protecting young people, not punishing or isolating them, and letting parents know we're in their corner when it comes to supporting their children's health and well-being."
And who is in the government's corner, giving its bold ban the thumbs up? The country's loudest media company, which was boasting this month:
"This is a major win for News Corp's Let Them Be Kids campaign."
That News Corp campaign, launched 6 months ago on the front pages of its Sunday tabloids, had one main aim: to pressure the government into barring access to social media for anyone under 16, arguing that the age limit is desperately needed because teenagers are facing the greatest crisis of a generation.
Parents are losing the fight against multi-billion-dollar tech platforms that continue to knowingly expose children to harmful content that is affecting their mental and physical health.
And across the News Corp papers, the editorials all hit the same note.
We need to do it for our kids, and we need to do it now.
News Corp also ran a petition for government action, collecting 54,000 signatures, and supported a day of action for people to unplug from social media for 24 hours. And on News Corp's Let Them Be Kids homepage, there are dozens of stories on what it calls the scourge of social media, on children lost to suicide, the warning signs for parents, and personal experiences from sports stars and celebrities. And in case you missed the message, there's also this plea by a mother, read by an actor.
"I continuously tried to take social media off her, but there was no fighting it. Its gritty presence won her over every time."
Not surprisingly, you'll be hard-pressed to find a story in the News Corp papers that counters that narrative, or one that proposes alternatives to the government's blanket ban for kids under 16. And also barracking for the ban is Whipper from Lachlan Murdoch's Nova Entertainment, who's been running his own campaign. As 2GB's John Stanley noted last week,
it's being pushed by News Corp, some very prominent figures in the media. The coalition's on board as well. There's not likely to be a huge amount of pushback on this one.
He's not wrong there. And as he adds, it's got other media in line.
So to go against that, you'd be essentially inviting a media storm on you.
You don't stand up against a tsunami, do you?
Well, only the brave, especially when social media really is leading kids to take their own lives.
Bullied to death. Charlotte's Wish.
New documentary out today.
But it wasn't only the Sunday tabloids featuring Charlotte's tragic story earlier this month. It was also being told on 7 News.
Clutching a teddy tight, Matt and Kelly O'Brien mourn their little girl. Inside Charlie the bear are the ashes of their daughter Charlotte, lost to suicide at just 12 years old.
And on 9's 60 Minutes.
She was the sweetest, kindest,
amazing girl in the world.
Charlotte's wish for the world to know. If social media was banned, would Charlotte still be here?
Absolutely.
But unlike much of the media coverage, 60 Minutes did explore whether a ban would make kids safer, and had experts warning it wouldn't.
It's a disaster.
I mean, you're not mincing words there. You think it's just not going to work?
No, I think it's not going to work. I'm really concerned that it's going to make our children more unsafe than they've ever been.
Professor Amanda Third is co-director of the Young and Resilient Research Centre and one of more than 100 academics to have signed an open letter to the Prime Minister expressing concern about the proposal, stating,
"A ban is too blunt an instrument to address risks effectively."
And pointing out,
"There are not yet effective techniques for age assurance nor to verify parental consent."
Instead, the 100-odd experts want social media platforms to be forced to build safer products and reduce harm. So, did their concerns get much interest from the media? Hardly a nibble, with Professor Third telling MediaWatch,
"There is not a sexy media story in technology experts saying a total ban is not the right solution."
And that means there is a lack of media debate on other ways to keep kids safe online.
This is an unprecedented move by the government to intervene between parents and their kids. We should be putting kids at the heart of this policy, but their needs and aspirations are missing from the debate.
And Amanda Third notes,
"Ever since the media bargaining agreement collapsed earlier this year, the news coverage and political message has been all about curbing the power of technology platforms."
Well, there's no question about that. It's been an all-out war since Meta announced it was dumping the deal that paid millions of dollars to the media for Facebook to run news articles. And News Corp has led the attack.
Facebook's not a friend.
Meta faces revolt on news.
With News Corp papers arguing that tech giants were raking in huge profits while not doing enough to regulate what goes up on their platforms, which is undoubtedly true, but wasn't a front-page campaign when Zuckerberg's money was pouring in. Funny, that. But not everyone at Whole Street is towing the company line.
This idea is so stupid. Banning social media, no. You ban the pornography, you ban the child exploitation, you do whatever it is. You don't ban the means of communication. That is Luddite stuff.
The Human Rights Commissioner is also alarmed and is calling for more debate. And its concerns were being reported by Cam Wilson at Crikey, one of the few media outfits to actively question the policy, which, we should point out, will force everyone, regardless of how old they are, to verify their age to access social media platforms. And when Australian adults realise that, they'll be wondering why they didn't read about it in the media first. But let's leave the tension of social media and flick the switch to analogue and cross to one of the ABC's longest-running radio shows that's been broadcast all over Australia for the last 39 years.
Get on with it, Macca. I will. Good morning and welcome wherever you are.
The ABC is often accused by its critics of being a conservative-free zone. But for the last 4 decades, Macca has been a staunch defender of old-fashioned values. And 3 weeks ago, he and his guest Dick Smith were busy sticking the boot into renewable energy.
The CSIRO are telling us that renewables and storage is the cheapest form of power. Now, it's the opposite to the truth. It's completely unaffordable. We should be telling people this.
Well, and that's why you're here. We've got the most expensive electricity in the world, apparently.
Yep.
Dick Smith invited himself into the studio to be Macca's star guest and was on the air for 2 hours of the 4.5-hour show, spreading the message that global warming is real, but wind and solar won't solve the problem because there's no way to store power cheaply when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine.
The cost of batteries is so staggering, it means that renewables and storage is completely unaffordable.
And, said Smith, when the experts at CSIRO tell us that renewables are the cheapest form of power, they are lying to us, or have got their sums hopelessly wrong.
Look, we're not being told the truth, and I can't work this out because they are scientists and engineers at the CSIRO. They did this report called the Gen Cost Report, but what's missing is the cost of the storage.
That claim from Smith is flat out wrong, because CSIRO has made it quite clear several times that it did include storage costs in its Gen Cost report. And many other energy experts, including investment bankers Lazard, agree that renewables are the cheapest option. But that did not deter Smith from dismissing their conclusions and claiming
We have 5 million people who live pay packet to pay packet. They can't pay 3 times what they're paying now for electricity. And if we go to 90% renewables, which is the plan of the present government, it'll be 3 times the price minimum, probably more than that.
That is just moonshine, as you might gather from this International Energy Agency report. But Smith was just getting started. He also treated Macca's listeners to a rant about ugly wind farms.
Which, when the wind's not blowing, generate no power at all.
And batteries.
They put in this battery, $40 million will run for 1 hour.
And Macca was in agreement, wondering if this global warming caper might just be not right, and telling his guest...
It seems that we've been sold a pup and we're not getting the full truth. The catch cry is save the planet, but while you're saving the planet, you... in some people's eyes, and certainly mine and probably yours, you're ruining the environment.
So, what is Smith's truth? That Australia must have nuclear power. All of which had 186 of Macca's listeners so unhappy they complained to the ABC, with one objecting to...
climate change denial, spreading dangerous, harmful lies.
And another protesting that it was...
clear misinformation, outrageous and dangerous, and refuted by the vast majority of renowned climate scientists.
And there might have been more angry complaints about misinformation or lack of balance had renewable energy advocate Simon Holmes à Court not phoned in to challenge what Smith had been saying on renewables and on nuclear.
But there are a couple of things that Dick hasn't put out there. Cost and time. From a standing start that we're in right now, it's going to take us about 20 years to get that first nuclear kilowatt hour in, and it's going to cost us about $250 a megawatt hour when we can generate power right now for less than 100.
3 weeks on from that exchange, in a remarkably quick decision, the ABC Ombudsman has delivered its findings. And while it finds Macca's programme did not breach impartiality standards, it makes it clear the programme would have been in breach had Holmes à Court not called in to dispute Smith and Macca's claims.
The programme was fortunate to have a listener who was able to get through on the talkback line to provide the necessary diversity of perspectives on a contentious matter. This came down to good luck rather than good management.
And it counselled Macca and the ABC to take more care in future.
The Ombudsman recommends that this report be discussed with the programme team and programme managers to ensure that better care is given to scheduling or providing a diversity of perspectives when discussing contentious matters.
It's not the first time that Macca has been spoken to. It may not be the last. But, not surprisingly, some complainants were unhappy that he escaped so lightly, with one of the 186 taking to X to protest.
You sacked the wrong Macca.
That, of course, being a reference to another Macca at the ABC, and a PR disaster that hit the broadcaster on Thursday, after the popular Sydney radio host Sarah McDonald told listeners she had been dumped.
Listen, I'm not going to be on the radio with you next year. The ABC has decided not to renew my contract here at Mornings.
McDonald told her audience...
I am proud of what I've done. The ratings are up. I've broken lots of stories.
And graciously wished her successor good luck.
The new person will be announced very soon. They're very lucky because they get to be with you, and I wish them all the best.
But the reaction was immediate, with more than 2,000 people texting the ABC to complain or ask why she was being dumped. A host of people, including me, finding the decision hard to believe, and the New South Wales Premier expressing his sadness and saying,
I loved coming onto the show. The issues were always interesting, the conversation always engaging.
And there was this tribute from Richard Glover, who told his listeners on ABC Radio Sydney,
the wonderful Sarah McDonald, the news today that the management here had decided not to renew her contract has left our little family here, well, shell-shocked is the only word, really. When she came out after the show, everybody lined up in the corridor outside the radio station and just applauded her.
But the sharpest riposte came from McDonald's morning radio rival, Ray Hadley, who was as complimentary about her as he was scathing about those who dismissed her.
I don't know Sarah McDonald, but I do know one thing about her. She's a quality broadcaster. And I would say that quality broadcasters are in short supply at the ABC. So what do? They sack her. And I would say to the person in charge of making such decisions, you're a dope.
The person responsible for the decision is the ABC's head of audio, Ben Latimer, who's spent most of the last 20 years in commercial FM radio. We asked him why he got rid of McDonald. He ducked that question and alerted us to a staff email which stated,
"Our decisions reflect the need to revitalise our programming and bring a renewed mix of voices and perspectives. Relying solely on what we've always done won't help us connect with the new audiences we need."
Now, it may well be that the ABC is planning to replace McDonald with someone the audience will like. But as Hadley told 2GB listeners, that person will want to be good. And as many listeners told us, it had better be a woman. And sadly, however good they are, it is still a PR disaster for the ABC and for the incoming host that had to unfold this way. That's all from us for tonight. You can read that email from Ben Latimer on our website.